Hi, I'm Shoestring Jay and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things thrifty, frugal and sustainable. Today I'm going to continue with part 2 of my Q&A, so answering questions from you. And as I expected in my last video, it was going on a little bit because I did have quite a lot of questions and I found some of the answers had to be quite long. So anyway, this is part 2. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you at the end. LP Mum asks, how is your arthritis? Well, thank you very much for asking me that, LP Mum. I would say it's been a lot better over the summer. It's not got any worse at all. My fingers do sadly look like this. Justin laughs, he says, like you point and you're actually going slightly upwards. But, you know, they're not inflamed at the moment. So although they're slightly bent, they're not red, they're not inflamed. I do know that if I eat a lot of sugar and drink a lot of alcohol, it gets worse. So, and that is just everything really. So I do have fibromyalgia, and if I do a lot of that, those kind of very inflammatory things to have, aren't they? Sweets and processed food and alcohol, they're very inflammatory, and these are inflammatory conditions. So I know I have to restrict that. So if I start to feel things are getting bad, then I'll start to really look at my diet and also exercise. I mean, every other day I'll do a little yoga session, and if I don't do that, I really know about it, everything starts to hurt. So it really does help keep the arthritis at bay and the fibromyalgia symptoms at bay to do a little bit of stretching at least every other day. And as I say, if I miss that, I really do know about it. I'm also keep myself walking. I walk a lot with the dog. I walk at least 5 kilometers a day with the dog. So that also all helps as well. But yeah, it's not too bad at the moment. We'll see how it is going into winter. Joanne says, hello, you did say a question on anything. What shade of green is the paint behind you? I'm going to go to the garage and get it out because I meant to do that before I started the video so I can tell you what shade it is. Back. And then I looked at it and thought, that's useful, isn't it? Can't really tell you much about this. I can. It's French chic and it's called Steaming Green. And that is it. And it's a lovely colour. And one thing I would say is that I don't buy really cheap paint because I've found it's a false economy. So in the past I have bought cheap paint and I've regretted it. So I find it goes on nicer and you need fewer coats. It just looks nicer and you get nicer colours. So I often buy French chic paint. I find it really nice quality and lots of interesting colours. Sometimes I buy, is it Little Green paint as well? I bought the other end of this room, it's open plan, is a very pale green, which is from Little Green. So yeah, that's what that is called. Iris asks, do you cook for your husband? So we've established that Justin's not my husband, but there you go. Or does he do his own food? Oh, I've got the cat coming and shouting now. And Cynthia also asks about Justin and cooking. Does Justin cook? And if so, what's his speciality? Justin doesn't cook. He hates cooking. He's very underconfident with cooking. And I think it comes from living with his mum, who really wanted control of the food. She liked to do the cooking. She didn't want anyone in her kitchen. I think that's a mistake, particularly with men, because I think, you know, you teach your kids to cook. I think that's a really good life skill myself. However, he can do basic stuff. His speciality at the moment is pancakes. He's been making his mum pancakes a lot because she's been fancying them. So he's been making those from scratch. Other than that, he does a lot of egg on toast, beans on toast, anything you want on toast. He's not a cook. He's never going to be a cook. I'm not going to force him to be a cook. He has other strengths. I enjoy cooking. So although that's kind of a traditional approach to a partnership, it works okay for us. You know, he does things that I just can't do. Like yesterday, he had 2 shelf units that he'd bought for the shed. There's no way I would try to do anything like put up a shelf unit. He did the one in my office, the new one that I bought as well. You know, he can put it together in 3 seconds flat. It's stable and sturdy. If I did that, I did put up a bookshelf once and it literally wobbled. The Leaning Tower of bookshelves it was. So we have our strengths. His is not cooking, and I'm not going to force him to cook. You know, if he had to, he can do himself some basic stuff, but he doesn't want to. Anyway, moving on from that, Thrifty Mama of One says, I've given Ali Lives on Less a follow for tips as well. Good. So are there any frugal and thrifty channels that you could mention? Other than that, I've already mentioned Frugal Queen in France. A lot of you will follow Jane and Mike on their French adventure. They've just moved, actually. They've just bought another house in the south of France, which sounds fancy, but they're not in Biarritz or anywhere like that. They've gone inland and they're in a lovely country area, and houses are cheap in France, so cheaper than here, so you get a lot more for your money there. So yeah, I watched Jane for a long time. I watched Nicola at the Frugal Cottage. She doesn't do all that much now, but she's a single mum with a full-time job, so she doesn't have a lot of time. Some that have gone by the wayside that I used to enjoy, I used to like Frugal Joe, and I know a lot of you did, and I used to like Tess as well, Frugal Food and Finance, I think she was, and Claire's Journey. So they've all gone. They were kind of frugal channels that, you know, somebody asked me where they'd gone and why they'd stopped on one of my old videos that we did as a collaboration. And I think the thing is with YouTube, it pays so little. Google AdSense is, honestly, it pays so little if you're a small creator, that you can put a lot of effort into making videos. And it does take time, you know, thinking about what you're going to do, sitting here doing your chat or filming things, editing, uploading, doing a thumbnail, sharing it, that kind of thing. It takes, I mean, I worked out I probably earn about £5 an hour if I spend 4 or 5 hours on a video, which is way less than minimum wage, isn't it? I earn, if I am lucky, I bring in about £200 a month from YouTube. It's not much, is it, for 2 videos a week? So you can see why people focus their attention when they are short of money on other things. So if you've got mortgage and family and that kind of things, then there's probably better ways to earn a crust. Oh, Vivi, I should mention as well what Vivi did next. Ali, I've already mentioned. I'm trying to think who else I watch. I watch loads of people. I tend to watch more UK. I know there are some Americans that I have watched and kind of gone off the boil with. I tend to find I relate better to people in the UK. So those are the main ones. There are others. I'm probably going to regret missing people out. If I think when I'm editing this, I'll add them in my description box, so have a look down there. Thrifty Mama of One also asks, or she also says, I sometimes have trouble sticking to a budget. What's your best advice? I sometimes don't take my card out with me, so I'm not tempted. Also, do you think cash stuffing is a good idea nowadays if you do it? I don't do cash stuffing. I've never done cash stuffing. I don't like having a load of cash in the house. I do actually deal with cash, though. I want to keep cash going, so I do make a point of getting some cash out and paying for things by cash, but I don't like, you know, I have these savings pots I've mentioned in Monzo, and I know all of my bills come out on the first day of the month. I've got it set like that, so I don't need to stuff cash really for those things, so I don't do it. I think it really works for some people. I know it does. I've watched various videos that people have done about cash stuffing, so I know it can work. Going back to the first part of that question, God, we all sometimes have trouble sticking to a budget, don't we? Sometimes you just think, oh, I'm just so sick of watching every penny, and I get like that. I'm sure you do. And it can be a kind of hobby, and it can be fun, but also sometimes it can be relentless and a bit exhausting, and you get frugal fatigue. And I tend to, that would be a good time for me, if I'm not sticking to my budget, to do a no spend period, quite often a no spend month, because I find that gets me, I'm somebody who needs rules. I need an absolute. So it gets me out of the habit of spending. I just don't spend. I'm not going to any shops. I'm not buying anything I don't need to. And I am shopping from the cupboards and that kind of thing. It tends to be when I will do something like have a wardrobe clear out, because then you remember the clothes that you've got, start to put outfits together, and you know, and actually where you've got, or I clear out some cupboards and sell things. So instead of buying stuff, I am selling stuff. So these are things I do when I'm struggling to stick to my budget. I've got a blog post on this actually, which I'll try and remember to link below, on, you know, how you can keep a frugal mindset. And it is a tricky one. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's flipping depressing, isn't it? But other times it feels like it's really satisfying, because you realise how much you can get for your money. Unwar, I don't know if that's like initials or something, UNWAW, asks, I struggle to not check on one brand that I particularly love. Do you have passion for something that you just can't cut out? I've mentioned wine. I wouldn't say passion. There's something that I don't want to cut out, wine. I think we don't do much, so I will keep to a bottle of wine a week. I think there's very few branded items that I will buy. I think supermarket owned brands tend to be as good. But I did struggle a bit with coffee because I like Azuri coffee or Millicano coffee, instant coffee. This is, I don't bother making coffee. I only have one cup of coffee a day. But I like a decent cup, and a lot of supermarket brands just, I didn't like them. So I was buying those and I was going to Home Bargains, and that was fine. I could get a good, reasonable price. But the price of coffee has gone up so much. It's just crazy. And I just thought, well, I'm just going to have to stop. So what I was doing was buying what looked like a reasonable version of those things in Lidl, of those types of coffee in a can, but much, much cheaper, and mixing the two together. And I found that that was quite acceptable. I could manage that because I'm not a connoisseur of coffee, but that decent coffee is something I consider that I don't have one a day. I don't want to give that up. And the other thing is I like good skincare, but I don't buy expensive skincare, and I shop around for bargains. But I do like to buy the Weleda jars, glass jars, and I find it's really nice for my skin. I get quite dry skin, and I like the Weleda Skin Food Day Cream and Night Cream, and I wouldn't want to give those up. Having said that, I have at times gone and bought all of my moisturisers from Aldi and Lidl. The Lidl one I found a bit highly perfumed. The Aldi one I used for years, and it was about £2 or £3 a pot, and honestly it was really good. It was fine. So, if I have to then change things, then I will. But coffee is one thing. Oh, tea as well. I should say tea. I don't buy expensive tea, but I don't buy cheap tea either, because I really like a cup of tea and I drink a lot of tea. So I mainly drink decaf, and there are certain brands that I just won't touch. Tetley is just horrible. It tastes of dishwater. Don't like PG Tips much. I think the Sainsbury's red label, or the blue label in terms of the decaf, is the best tea. The red label and the blue label, I think that's really, really good tea. If I saw Yorkshire tea bags on offer, I would buy them. I think they're good tea bags, but I wouldn't go on my way to buy those. But I do, certain brands of tea that I will buy, and ones that I'll spend more money on them because I like a decent cup of tea. But I won't go crazy, so I don't buy Yorkshire tea all the time because it's too expensive. Co-op decaf and co-op tea is also good, and that's not too expensive. Much cheaper than Yorkshire anyway. Michelle must be thinking about Christmas. Asks how to manage to get gifts on a budget. Any tips? Well, in the past, I have done things like bought in the sales, so I still do that now actually. But when my kids were small, I would particularly look after Christmas, and I would be buying their birthday presents in the sales because everything's reduced after Christmas, isn't it? I would happily buy second-hand gifts. I think also really you've got to look at what you can afford and just say, this is what I'm going to buy, and just do the best you can with that money. So I think it's really important when you're buying gifts to really look at what somebody likes and not just buy them anything because it's cheap, because it's pointless, isn't it? You see all of these gift sets in the charity shops after Christmas. Unless somebody loves a particular brand, I mean, the Baylis and Harding, everyone seems to buy those. They're okay. They're not the best. I mean, I would use it if somebody bought me Baylis and Harding, but a lot of people wouldn't. Maybe they've got, my sister, for example, has lots of skin problems, and if somebody buys her that, she just gives it away because she can't use it. It irritates her skin, gives her eczema. So, it's just, I think if you want to get good value gifts, then find out what somebody wants and then buy a version of it that you can definitely afford. And that might mean shopping around, buying sales, buying secondhand, or, buying maybe buying a voucher towards it if you can't buy the full thing. Justin often says, oh, buy me, I say, what do you want for Christmas? He'll go, oh, I'll have a £500 Apple Watch. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not buying that. So if you want to have a £500 Apple Watch, you can buy it yourself. But I'll maybe buy him something towards it or give him something towards it. So those kind of compromises go on. So I don't know, it is difficult, isn't it, gift giving? But I just think I buy what I can afford. The girls know that they've got a budget. I tell them, you've got this much, what would you like? And then they know they can go up to whatever amount it is for that particular occasion. And they know they've got that amount. I stick to the budget. They tell me what they want. Laura says, I have two different questions for you. One, you're on a desert island and can only have one luxury. what would it be? Well, let's deal with that one first. One luxury. I think it would have to be books. Or perhaps I should, if I get a charger and plug it in, I should get a Kindle, because I wouldn't have to have a pile of books festering in the sand on my desert island. So I don't actually like reading books using a Kindle. I much prefer having books. But yeah, I think it would have to be books. And if I was on a desert island, I suppose I'd also want a big, good supply of moisturiser for my dry skin. I already mentioned that. I would hate to be in a sunny conditions with no moisturiser. So I don't know, it's very difficult. The cats just reminded me that I'd probably want some animals, some pets, actually, above all that. If I was not stuck on a desert island, I'd have to have pets, but I'd have to have them all. So I'd have to have the 2 cats and Archie. He's sitting there, she's over there, they're the ones upstairs. And the second part of Laura's question is, what's your favourite lingerie brand and why? Well, I don't really have one. I don't really do lingerie at this point in my life. So underwear, I would say. Lingerie makes me think of like going to Paris for some silk stuff, you know. It's been a long time since I've bothered with that sort of thing. I do tend to buy Marks and Spencer's underwear because it's not as good quality as it used to be, but it is still reasonable quality and affordable. And I was using the Biscuit app for dog walking, and I could get £10 Marks and Spencer's vouchers really easily, which I was spending on underwear. I have to say that the Biscuit app is not any good anymore. It takes you so long now. They've just, a walk with the dog used to get me, I don't know, it was about 25 points. So you could actually build it up quite quickly to, I think it was something like 800 and 900 points you needed for a £10 Marks and Spencer's voucher. And now they give you 5 points. So it's taking forever. So I've gone off the boil with it. But that was one of the reasons as well I was going to M&S. So yeah, that's really the answer to that question. I don't spend a lot of money on underwear. I want comfortable underwear that's gonna not fall apart after a few washes. So I tend to go to M&S. Lemon Teapot asks, what sort of books, films and music do you like? I love crime novels. I do enjoy crime novels, but I also have always liked non-fiction, and that can be all sorts of non-fiction. So it could be instructive books on saving money. I read a lot of those. Autobiographies sometimes. I like all sorts of books. I don't like massive tomes that are written in that have tiny print, because I can't be bothered really. There's got to be a good story. I tend to read nowadays what we're reading in my book club. So we have a book a month, so I'll always read that. And I mentioned in my video the other day, my cooking video, Frugal Kitchen video, that I just read Like Water for Chocolate, which I loved. Great book. I think it's Laura Esquivel. I think that's her name, the author. Really good book. But I love the fact that a book group makes you look at books you would never pick up otherwise and read, and somebody would sometimes they don't know, they choose a book based on reviews, and sometimes it's one of their favourites and they think that other people will like it, and that was one of those, I think. So yeah, that's what I would say. I read more fiction nowadays because of my book group, but I also read non-fiction. I just all sorts, really, all sorts. I could go and show you my bookshelf. I don't tend to hang on to books a long time, so only certain books. Kate Atkinson is one of my favourite authors, and for some reason I hang on to hers. I don't throw them away. I don't tend to go back and read books for a second time, but because as you get older, your memory gets worse, you can save money and read books more than once. So yeah, it's a hard one, books, because I like all sorts. Films, again, I like all sorts, but I tend to go for dramas. I don't like loud action films. I do get dragged to see them from time to time because Justin does like them. I tend to like quieter, more thoughtful dramas. I'm trying to think of the last film that I saw was The Salt Path, which I did really enjoy, but have since been really very much put out by the scandal and controversy around Raina Wynn and her husband and The Salt Path, and the fact that there appear to be a lot of untruths, fiction, and the whole story seems to have been based on a lie and an act of fraud. And if you don't know about that, read around it. But I did really enjoy all of those books, and I enjoyed the film. and that's the kind of film I do enjoy. But I'm very put out by that whole thing. I feel let down. What was the other thing? Oh, music. I love the music of my youth. Joni Mitchell is one of my favourite artists. I love Joni Mitchell, but mainly her early stuff up to about before she got super jazzy. And I like Court and Spark. That was slightly jazzy. I like Hajira. That's quite jazzy. But I've got most of her albums, actually, but the ones I play most are the early ones. I love Kate Bush. Again, her early stuff. Love Kate Bush. I love Pink Floyd. The sounds of my youth I go back to and enjoy. And those kind of post-punk things, I love Susie and the Banshees, The Police. What have I been listening to? I'm looking over there. Oh, I tell you what I absolutely love right now. Going back to more recent artists, I absolutely love Hosier. I've got a couple of Hosier albums. I love him. His voice is like, it's like you can imagine there is a God and God has given him this voice. It's just amazing. His music is not run of the mill. I don't like pop. I don't like I'll have it on the radio and, I'm not offended by it, but I would never go out and buy any music that was just poppy. I'm just not interested in that. I like things that are a little bit bluesy. I like old stuff. I love the Beatles as well. I like Bob Dylan. I like stuff that's got a message and a story and good songwriting and good singing, good musicianship. And there is a local band called When Rivers Meet, and they are on YouTube, and they are a husband and wife duo, and I've just discovered them and they're brilliant. I'm really hoping to see them live when things settle down with Justin's mum, because they are playing, they're touring all the time. They're absolutely brilliant. If you like that kind of bluesy music, she has a fabulous voice, and they have he's a really good musician and has also a good voice, and they just have a really good sound and a good look. So yeah, I like all sorts of things really, but I don't really like pop. So that's a long answer to that quite simple question, wasn't it? Lynn says, talk about sinking funds and saving. I've kind of covered that already, Lynn, I think. But she says, what's hard for you to cut out or give up? For me, it's coffee. The price of Maxwell House has doubled in the USA. Doubled, geez. And I'll have to cut back to 1 4-cup pot a day. Again, I've kind of covered that off, haven't I? So yeah, coffee for me as well is hard to cut out, and tea and wine. It's just all about the drinks, isn't it? So I should really say chocolate, but actually chocolate, I go through phases with chocolate where I don't eat it at all because I'm getting a bit of inflammation, and then I just eat too much of it and start putting on weight. So yeah, I think I've kind of covered that. I would hate to give up our little annual jaunt somewhere, a little holiday. And we haven't really, all we did was a long weekend in York this year, and we're both really wishing we could have a holiday, and it's just too difficult at the moment. We can't leave Justin's mum. So, and then Claire kindly asks, how is my mum doing? So my mum, some of you will know, she lived with me for a little while. She'd sold her cottage and was waiting for her flat to be finalised, and she now has been in her flat for probably 1.5 years, I think. And every time I go to see her, she says, I love it here, Jane. I love it here. And she does. It's just wonderful. It's been the biggest success. She doesn't miss the cottage. She doesn't miss the village she was in. She misses my dad, and she misses him and the cottage, but she doesn't miss that cottage, although it was an absolutely gorgeous little cottage. For her, at her time of life, it was completely wrong. It was out in the country. There were no shops. There were hardly any people. There was nothing she could get to. She doesn't drive. She couldn't walk to anything. Now she can walk to the high street. It's 5 minutes. It's bustling. It's full of good shops still, her high street. It's great, actually. We go charity shopping almost every time I go and see her, once a week or so. It's got a big Sainsbury's there. She can go up to Sainsbury's. My sister will quite often help her out with shopping, but it's got a Marks and Spencer's. It's got loads of cafes. They all know her. They know her in the cafes. It's lovely. She goes in there and go, oh, hi, Shirley, how are you? What are you having today? You're having a milkshake. My mum loves a milkshake. We're going to one, and Charlotte, the lady that runs it, says, milkshake, Shirl. And I think, oh, that's so sweet. She's only been there like 1.5 years, and they all know her. And all the other residents know her. She gets involved in everything. It's not a care home. They each have their own independent flats, but they're all of an age. You have to be 60, I think, 50, maybe even 50 to live there, but most people are over 60. Most people are actually into 70s and 80s and 90s. But they have a lot of things, like have a bingo night. I keep saying they should start a Thursday murder club, if you know that series. They have bingos that she started, puzzles. It's not a club, but she's just started it in their community room. She had so many puzzles. She just started a puzzle table and she took her puzzles down. Now other people are joining in and they go in and just do a few bits. Sometimes people sit there and do a puzzle together and chat. Sometimes they'll just do a few bits and then they'll walk off again. And it's just really nice. What else do they do? To keep fit. They have a coffee morning. So there's loads going on. If there's any occasions like Easter or Christmas, they'll have a celebration as well. And she has got right involved. She's made loads of friends and she just loves it. I mean, what's a better way to go into your 90s than feeling like you just love where you live and you're making loads of new friends? It's just wonderful, isn't it? I'm really happy about it. So anyway, that is all of the questions. So I will leave it here. So I hope I have answered some of your more burning questions, and thank you very much for giving me sensible questions and nothing too horribly personal. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as I said at the beginning, don't forget to give me the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you don't already. Hit your notifications bell so you know next time I upload a video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.